planted two varieties of soybeans out here. Both are Pioneer beans, and Pioneer has a PPO tolerance scale for the beans. So we planted a PPO tolerant variety and a PPO susceptible variety. It's not in the book, but you can, as you walk through the plot, you'll be able to see the difference in the varieties. So we also planted, we had 4 seed treatments. One was the non-treated, which is the black. We had no seed treatment. Then base seed treatment is Gaucho. Then we had base seed treatment in Clariva, and base seed treatment and Olivo. We also had 4 herbicide treatments. One non-treated, which is the black. Fierce XLT, which is the yellow. Trivence, which is the gray, and Authority XL, which is the red. And we did spray them at a 2x rate, as Dr. Bradley said, so we're trying to get injury. And on page 6, the soybean biomass. As you can tell, there's all injury across every seed treatment. But if you look on the far right, the Olivo and Authority XL, the red, it had the largest percentage of biomass reduction. We took those measurements of the first graph 10 days after emergence, and the bottom graph is 30 days after emergence. So you can tell on the bottom graph that they all had a very well recovery, even some over 100%. So if you'll flip the page to page 7, these graphs are on soybean height, and as you can tell, some of these plots have severe stunting in growth. It follows the same trend as the last graph. There's been reduction across all of them, but the worst seems to be Authority XL sprayed at a 2x rate. The difference between these two graphs is that there's not a lot of recovery with the height reduction, as this one right here is severely stunted in growth.
What we should have probably told you is every plot is 4 rows of soybeans with the same seed treatment, all kinds of different seed treatments out here obviously, but within those 4 rows is all the same seed treatment, same variety, everything. The only difference is the middle 2 rows is the only thing that got sprayed, and so that's really showing you the effect of the herbicide seed treatment interaction together on that.
Yeah, so with spraying the 2 middle rows, we have a non-treated check with each plot. So if you turn to page 8, these graphs are on stand counts and stand loss. It follows the same kind of trend as the other graphs have. There's a stand reduction on all the treatments, but Authority XL seems to have the largest amount of stand reduction. And as the height graph 30 days after emergence, there doesn't seem to be a lot of recovery with the stand loss. So the main goal of the whole trial was to see if there was an interaction between seed treatments and herbicides and if they correlated with a yield loss. So we haven't collected the yield yet, obviously, so we can't really determine if it has, but we can make the assumption that it has caused some interaction with all the variability out here.
And it's important to note that there's really only a couple of studies I know of that have kind of put all this out there. It was a collaborative study. Iowa State and Purdue, they have 1 year of field data with yield. And as far as the Olivo Authority interaction, they did see some injury, but it did not translate into yield loss. And all of their treatments, all of their rates were standard 1x field use rates, unlike ours. So there is some data out there that so far has some yield to it, which obviously that's the ultimate goal of ours. Well, you know, a lot of the chemical company guys come out there and they see their product getting used at 2x and they don't like that. And because it obviously is going to hurt. And with that, like I said from the very beginning, that was part of the study. Okay, our objective is to be able to come back to you someday and say, okay, if you're 10 days after emergence, or if you're 30 days after emergence, or whatever, and you visually, or maybe not even visually, maybe you take height and you say, okay, there's a 50% height reduction, or maybe if you visually say there's about a 30% level of injury here, then we're able to give you some data that says that either does translate into X% yield loss or it does not. And based on everything we saw last year, soybeans can take a tremendous amount of early season injury in the form of biomass reduction or height reduction, and it does not necessarily translate into yield loss. And so